Over the weekend, we started to see not only the protests as a result of the full not guilty verdicts for Kyle Rittenhouse in Kenosha, Wisconsin, we also started to see COVID protests turn violent around the world. Now, you might say, David, what, are people protesting the virus? No. What I mean is protests around COVID guidelines. Many countries starting to put in place stricter guidelines for the unvaccinated as cases are spiking dramatically in many countries in Europe, including Germany, Austria, and others. And the protests against guidelines, against vaccine requirements, are turning increasingly violent. I'm going to give you a little bit of a tour through some of these. Dutch police arrest 7 amid unrest in The Hague. Police arrested 7 rioters in The Hague after youths set fire in the streets and threw fireworks at officers. The unrest came a day after police opened fire on protesters in Rotterdam amidst violence that broke out at a protest against coronavirus restrictions. That's in The Hague. The rioting in The Hague was on a smaller scale than the pitched battles on the streets of Rotterdam, where police say 3 rioters were hit by bullets, and investigations are underway to figure out if they were shot by police. In Austria, Italy, and Croatia, protests erupt over virus rules. Tens of thousands of protesters, many from far-right groups, marched through Vienna, Austria on Saturday after this nationwide lockdown was announced. Austrian lockdown starts today, comes as average daily deaths have tripled. Hospitals in heavily hit states are reaching capacity. Lockdown will be at least 10 days, could be 20. This continuing in so many different parts of the world. In Italy, 3,000 turned out in the capital Circus Maximus, where in ancient times Romans would have popular entertainment, to protest green pass certificates required to go to workplaces, restaurants, cinemas, theaters, sports venues, and gyms, and long-distance train, bus, and ferry travel. In Northern Ireland, people opposed to vaccine passports protested outside the city hall in Belfast. Some protesters carried signs that have been widely criticized as offensive, comparing coronavirus restrictions to the actions of Nazi Germany. In Croatia, thousands have gathered. In France, there have been violent protesters. In France, they have been condemning violent protests in the Caribbean island of Guadeloupe, one of France's overseas territories, where cars have been set on fire. Tens of thousands protest Belgium's tighter COVID-19 rules. You see police fire hoses brought out to try to quell protests. Tens of thousands demonstrating there. Marchers came to protest the government's strong advice to get vaccinated and any possible moves to impose mandatory shots, shouting "freedom, freedom, freedom," and singing the anti-fascist song Bella Ciao. Protesters lined up behind a banner that says "Together for Freedom." Dutch police arrest more than 30 amid ongoing unrest. Already looked at one article of that. They are describing an orgy of violence. Interesting language. And France has sent special forces to the Caribbean region of Guadeloupe over COVID riots. What is the end game here? Because it is increasingly looking like there are going to be ebbs and flows of COVID for at least a couple more years. Now, there is the hope, based on Israeli data, that the 3rd dose creates more lasting immunity than the initial set or regimen of 2 doses. And of course, if that's the case, if people get vaccinated, we may see a more permanent decline in COVID rates and particularly hospitalizations and deaths. But at this point, it's pretty clear, based on the level of interest in getting vaccinated in a variety of countries, which is too low, that at least for a couple of years, while we hopefully wait, as Vincent Racaniello told us may happen, for a decline in the severity of COVID, as we wait for that, that there is going to be a very long period of time of the ebbs and flows. So what do we do? Do we learn to sort of live with it? Do we say, well, you've got to just continue with a sort of semi-restricted way of life for a couple of years? Do you go to let it rip at a certain point, as many have suggested, saying, well, once the vaccines are widely available for everyone, it becomes personal responsibility. There's problems with that. I don't have the answer. But what's increasingly clear is, number one, to the extent that there are guidelines, there are going to be people protesting, and hopefully not, but worryingly in increasingly violent fashion, number one. And number two, this is not going away anytime soon. And so I don't know the answer. We're going to be doing an interview next week, I think it is, related to the kind of bigger picture at this point in time, but I'm curious to hear from you. What should happen, given that this is likely to be the case for years? And I know people who are saying, I don't know that I'm ever going to a restaurant again. Okay, that's certainly one approach. But self-selecting out of life has its own problems, not to quote Donald Trump, but over the long term, obviously, that's going to create a problem as well. What should be done at this point? Let me know your thoughts. You can find me on Twitter at @dpacman, and we'll have a continuing conversation about this. I love growing my own food at home. Many of you have seen my gardening stuff on my Instagram. I get great tips from the audience. And one of our sponsors is Lettuce Grow, which is by far the easiest way to grow your own food at home. The Lettuce Grow farm stand is a hydroponic unit that waters and fertilizes itself. You can grow more than 200 varieties of fruits and veggies at home, indoors or outdoors. I love my Lettuce Grow farm stand. I've grown edible flowers, tomatoes, strawberries, eggplant. It only requires 5 minutes of maintenance a week. I can grow 36 plants at a time. It uses 95% less water than traditional gardening. No packaging, no waste. I didn't even know it was possible to grow food like this in a portable unit, but I love it. And Lettuce Grow is giving you $50 off the farm stand when you go to lettucegrow.com/Pacman and use the code Pacman. The link is down below.